Amazon Game Studios is making a new Lord of the Rings MMO if you haven't heard already. And it's set to release probably within the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even sooner. We don't know. But I speculate we're going to see something within the next year. Whether that's screenshots, images, or possibly a cinematic trailer. If you know Amazon Game Studios' track record, then we can look at New World, and they usually always set off the release of a cinematic trailer before they show anything else. So expect that soon. But today, I want to talk about what if you didn't have to fight for the light? Now hear me out. What if you could walk in the shadows of Sauron, or worse, forge your own dark destiny? Now it's something that us Lord of the Rings fans don't usually think about too much because we're usually like really good people. I don't know why, maybe it's just me, but I find all Lord of the Rings fans are pretty generally good people, and they don't really like to fantasize about being like a wicked creature or something like that. But for just a moment, can we take a step back and look at ourselves and be like, maybe it's fun to roleplay just a little bit. And there's a way that we could roleplay being some orcs, trolls, goblins, and every single dark figure that's in the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth Tolkien lore, just for once. Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings MMO hasn't revealed its storyline just yet. We know it's going to be set in the Third Age, but as of today, right now, I'm diving into what an evil faction storyline could look like. Middle-earth is a land of legends, heroes, and hope, but not all stories are told from the light. In Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings MMO set during the Third Age alongside the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, one question burns like the eye of Sauron itself. What would an evil faction look like? Well, today we imagine what it might be like to serve the Dark Lord himself and walk willingly into the shadow. So first, I want to set the stage, the Third Age of Shadow. Amazon's MMO is confirmed to take place during the Third Age. We already know this. The very era of Bilbo, Frodo, Gandalf, and the War of the Ring. That means no new Dark Lords, no post-Sauron timelines. We're not inventing evil, we're embracing the one Tolkien has already given us. And let me add to that, it's already perfect. The shadow is stirring. Sauron is rising in Mordor. The Witch King commands the forces of Angmar and Minas Morgul. Saruman begins his secret betrayal, crafting armies beneath Isengard. The evil faction storyline could begin right here. You are one of their servants, bound by will, fear, or ambition to the great powers of darkness. Next, let's go over these races of evil that we could possibly be playing. Think of it, your race determines your master and your role in the coming war. Uruk-hai? Well, you're Saruman's engineered soldiers, brutal, obedient, and deadly. Orcs of Mordor, you're bred in darkness, loyal to Mordor itself, corrupted by the will of the Eye. Men of Rune and Harad, foreign kingdoms swayed by fear, gold, or vengeance against Gondor itself. Black Númenóreans, ancient, proud, and steeped in dark rituals, and very rare to come across. So maybe that's like your mage type class that focuses and gives you buffs on those type of abilities. Specters of Angmar, wraith-like figures serving the Witch King, spreading the dread through magic and manipulation. Each race can offer unique perspectives, but are all tied directly to the canon of Tolkien in Middle-earth. That's the important part here. Every single option that you choose feels like it belongs, and that it is something in Middle-earth. Let's go into what it'd feel like serving the Dark Lords. Your storyline doesn't begin in a cozy hobbit hole. Nope, I'm sorry, not this one. It begins in service, in servitude. Depending on your allegiance, of course, that journey could look different. Your journey might align with one of the three major forces. Mordor's servants, aka Sauron, based in Minas Morgul, Cirith Ungol, or the Black Gates itself. Your role is to spread fear, crush resistance, and hunt the free people of Middle-earth. Isengard's army, Saruman, if you are a Uruk-hai, or a corrupted man, your campaign centers on expanding Isengard's power, secure Fanghorn, spy on Rohan, forge steel, and break wills. Angmar, the remnants of the Witch King that are left, you're stationed in Karn Doom, or Minas Morgul as well. You are a vanguard of terror. You don't fight with honor. You shatter minds and corrupt wills within. These are not made up powers. These are true servants of shadow moving behind the scenes as the Fellowship prepares their quest. Little do they know that you, the Dark Forces, are coming after them. And then finally, let's go into questing from the shadow. What would it be like to be questing as a dark force or the shadow forces of Middle-earth? Well, as evil players, you wouldn't just quest for glory or gold, they'd quest to weaken the world. Examples of questline could include things like poisoning water supplies in Aphelion, burning villages that are loyal to Gondor, kidnapping Rohirrim scouts and interrogating them, stealing relics from ancient tombs for dark rituals, tracking down rumors of the ring and eliminating witnesses. I mean, the possibilities are endless here. You're not just killing elves and men, you're disrupting the balance of the world, trying to get that much closer into the total conquest that Sauron craved and wanted. You know, the domination of Middle-earth. Because if you realize, Sauron at this point just is either thinking that, hey, I no longer need the ring to dominate this Middle-earth, or it's forever lost. It's only in The Lord of the Rings that we finally get a whispers that the ring's been found, and he sends out his ring wraiths after the capture of Gollum to go and try to get it. But that's not his primary goal, because nowhere in his deepest mind did he think that the ring would get destroyed. So you as his forces doesn't necessarily just mean you're going to go on this epic quest line to go find the ring, and that's all it becomes. There's many more tasks and quest lines that could go. Sure, that could be one of the main quest lines, main storylines that we go and try to do, but I don't think we should just limit ourselves to just that. Let's continue. You might even receive orders directly from the mouth of Sauron himself, or stand trial before the Witch King if you fail to do what you were told. You know, think about the cool, epic landscapes we could see in a different perspective that we haven't seen before. You're in a tribe of orcs, you're in the huts together, you're living and trying to figure out what's your purpose in all of this. Not something like Rings of Power is doing and makes like all family-friendly orcs that kind of kills the vibes, am I right? But something more terror-filled. You know, this is our chance to roleplay something a little bit different here. The farther your power grows, the more the light has to fight back. So that's like the meaning, the free people of Middle-earth. And that's going to transition us quickly into our next segment, what I want to call World PvP and Shadow Warfare. What if darkness and light could clash in real time? I mentioned this previously in some of my videos, where I want the PvP for this game to feel like epic battles from Middle-earth. We're going to have the free people of Middle-earth, and players that choose that alliance when they started the game are going to clash with the people that chose to start the alliance of the dark forces and shadows of the Middle-earth. In the open world, PvP could happen ongoing. Or again, like I want a traditional matchmaking system where we're not getting gear score level boost. But that's not what this topic is about. If you want to hear that, stay tuned for a future video where I go in depth on that, or watch some of my previous videos where I've slightly hinted to it. But for now, let's keep talking about the dark forces of Middle-earth and the storylines and how it could play out all together. This part's going a little bit into the PvP, so there is some crossover. A world PvP system could ignite when evil factions launch surprise attacks on the free people of Middle-earth zones. So say, you're like launching an attack into Hobbiton, or you're launching an attack onto Gondor, trying to capture it, and then they have to try to come and get it back. It's like a kind of like New World has their faction systems where those zones can be controlled by whatever faction. But this time we're not just going to be doing like Gondor versus Rohan, because that makes no sense. But it's going to be dark forces versus the good light forces, so it's not the world's not split 3 ways, it's split 2, you know. It's in those other factions, whether you chose to be a Uruk-hai starting in Saruman's area, or a Orc, you know, starting in Mordor, they're still bound to the alliance of the shadow, the dark forces of Middle Earth. You know, they're still connected. It's kind of like a mini faction within. But for PvP, they're together. Picture a raid of Isengard, Uruks swarming through the Westfold, or Easterlings laying the siege to a Gondorian outpost. This could be fantastic. I mean, I'm telling you, man, this would be so much fun. Or perhaps PvE versus P, so player versus environment versus player missions, where it's probably set in a certain area where you can do this. Or maybe certain times, you know, you think of games like Ark where you can kind of set certain times when PvP's open to the open world. Where evil players work to corrupt landmarks before being hunted by player rangers. It's not just mindless fighting, it's a war of tactics and sabotage. Victory gives your faction momentum in the global war map. And where I said, kind of mentioned New World, you're going to be seeing your conquest and who's kind of winning right now, the free people in Middle Earth or the dark forces. Victory, it goes and causes consequences and rewards. Failure can cause a deep consequence. You may miss the opportunity to siege on to Gondor, or you may lose your Minas Morgul fortress and having the Witch King expelled from that area. Who knows? You know, it's something they could do. So finally, I want to go into what this teaches us. Well, it can teach us a lot of things. That the Amazon has lots of opportunities to make it a fantastic Lord of the Rings MMO that no other game could ever do, and no other MMO could bring these type of experiences. So if you're not doing this stuff or thinking of this stuff already, Amazon, you're missing a big opportunity. Tolkien's world was more than just black and white. I mean, the story over itself is black and white. There you can easily distinguish who are supposed to be the good guys and the bad guys. But the overall world had some gray parts into it. Even within evil, there were layers: desperation, pride, fear, and manipulation. Not every orc was like super wicked. I mean, they're all have evil nature into them. I believe there's books that have that Tolkien or letters that he's written about that they're not all inherently evil, but they have that evil nature just already born into them. You can look at type of questions like I think it's Shagrack and that other orc we're having in the Return of the King book, where they kind of talk about, you know, stealing all this stuff and having a good, nice place to settle down at. That's kind of like the first glimpse that we get of actual orcs' conversations, what they're thinking about. They're not just thinking about constantly serving Sauron forever, you know. So there is layers within deep into being evil and what that looks like. Maybe not each one's as savage as the next. Not every Easterling was cruel. That's a good point itself. I mean, Easterlings, they might be just victims to circumstance. You know, they're kind of, their people are worshippers of Sauron. If you know a little bit about his conquest and what he was doing in Second Age, of why they fell and why they're falling and why they're following Sauron's orders and his army, they're kind of just victims to consequences. Not every Easterling might have really been up in arms for over this war, but you're going regardless for your people. You feel like your cause is just. So that storyline itself could be pretty interesting and cool. Many were just victims of lies, twisted promises, or ancient debts. By letting players walk the path of shadow, Amazon could allow us to understand, not just excuse, but understand the dark tide that rose against the West. And if they do this right, the MMO could offer one of the most immersive villain campaigns ever put into an online game. And I even mean more so than the Horde versus Alliance. I mean, it's Lord of the Rings we're talking here. Of course it's going to be more interesting. So, let me ask you, would you fight for Mordor? Would you pledge your sword to the White Hand? Would you swear your soul to the Witch King? Let me know in the comments what evil race or faction you would want to play. And subscribe right now if you want more Lord of the Rings MMO videos just like this, because I want to let you know the shadow is coming. and some of us were born into it. So, if you want to become a legend like me and get deep into the lore and roleplay a bit, just for a little bit, the other side of the story, well then get it right now and let's let Amazon know. We gotta let our voices be heard so Amazon can take the action right now as the game's still in development. We want this game to succeed. We don't want it to fail. Why? Because we're huge Lord of the Rings nerds, and huge Lord of the Rings nerds know how to be a big fandom and know how to be a fandom that is very loyal. So Amazon, give us what we've been asking for. Give us what you didn't give us in Rings of Power. Give us something that respects the lore, but opens up the world to us even more. The world that we already love so much is yet to be explored, and now it's time to touch that with the dark forces. So thank you for watching. Subscribe again, please. We're getting on to our way to 1,000 subscribers. Every single one of you helps make that worth it. Makes these videos fun for me to do. Thank you. Comment below that you were here. And again, let me hear you what force of evil you would like to play. Alright, until next time. See ya. Bye. Kawanawa. I'm out.